Hello and welcome to Warblog. What we're looking at here is Operation Nasr, 1982, Iran, Middle East. This is part of the Iran-Iraq War. I don't know what the front line was exactly like, and to be quite honest, I don't know exactly how this if this battle went down, so to speak. There's really not a lot on it, just a few narrative sort of texts. So essentially, what I'm saying might not be necessarily accurate, but I'm just going to say it as I see it at this stage. I might be wrong in some regards, but anyway, just forget that. Just assume it's the best I can do, etc., etc. Essentially, Iraq obviously invaded Iran, and this is the early stages. So this is basically 1982, but it's actually sort of more December 1981. I mean, this operation took place on the 6th of January 1982. What happened is Iraq invaded Iran. They stalled a little and they held a front line, but Iran didn't have the sort of capability to counterattack. And one of the sort of main dudes, who was maybe a little on the outside, basically convinced the Shah, or basically the Iranian government, to allow him to sort of carry out an assault. Now, essentially, he basically decided to take all the tanks, basically the Iranian army. He didn't use any of the Passaran. Don't really know the full significance of that, but basically, if he was successful, he would have done really well, but in a nutshell he failed. There's a little more to it than all of that, but basically down here we've got Karamashar, whatever it's called, and to the south of that there's another sort of city that the Iraqis didn't take, and they're trying to free it. Now the forces seem to come from this place here, which I can't see at the moment, but Ahvaz maybe. I think Ahvaz might be down here, but anyway, they do a number of feigned attacks. So there's two feigned attacks much further north, maybe about 50 miles north. So that's actually sort of detailed in here. They start with two diversionary attacks further to the north, one on the 6th of January at Qasr e-Shirin and another at Mehran. And now they're both basically off map. But another one took place at Ahvaz. Oh, Abadan, that's what they're trying to liberate. Abadan is way further south, probably where this mouse is here if you look at the map up there. But basically they do a third divisionary attack on Ahvaz. Now I think I did the map before I really fully realised, because when I came to sort of put the things on the map, Ahvaz is sort of, well, there it is there. It's basically way too close off the edge of the map. So I've assumed that the diversionary attack on Ahvaz has happened, and this is sort of not so much the result of it, but it's still in play. Now but basically the text that says that they use a mechanised division, and their surprise is enough to sort of force the Iraqis back, but they're not far enough so they're out of artillery range and they fall into a defensive position. So you could sort of say this is the very start of it. You could probably oust that unit there, tracking across a river, so it's probably not going to be that easy, but you've got some units on the other side here. So essentially that's a diversionary attack, but I don't understand that, because it says to force these to retreat west, but if they're going west they basically end up here, which is sort of where they want to be coming through. So unless they actually wanted to force them to retreat all the way over to there, which is possible because there's the border, force them back over the border, that might have been what they were trying to do. But essentially I don't really know what happened down here with this diversionary attack, other than it was partially successful. But anyway, so there's the main attack. It's basically comes down here, but the thing is, if you look at this map, it's just really obvious that there's this good road coming down here, and I've put this unit here to sort of block it. But really, why? That's a perfectly good route to come down. But what they actually do, they put a bridge over the River Karkheh, a pontoon bridge, and cross down here. And basically, this whole area here is sort of subject to flooding and being really wet, and it was really wet. And essentially, the whole idea was they bring these tanks down, and I don't know where they do this. This is the thing. It's a bit vague. It says between Sazanagard and Ahvaz or whatever, but basically between these two places. So presumably they're coming down this track here, and maybe down here, but they also want to take out this place. The reason I'm sort of not looking at map mode yet, so I want to look at the belligerent list. So basically they come down here, but as they're driving down, they get spotted by Iraqi helicopters, and so their surprise is lost. But the thing that I don't get is they've got a long way to go, all the way down here, all the way off the bottom of the map, and all the way sort of past these paragraphs here, all the way down to about here, where Abadan is. There's basically some besieged units in Abadan. They're going to break out and join up. But you've got Qasr or whatever it's called, sort of right next to it, which is far more significant. So I don't see what they were really trying to do, or whether I've got this map right. But I'm pretty sure that this is where all the battle took place, this sort of area here. But I just don't know that, because I haven't seen anyone else's maps, or the text description is a bit contradictory, because it sort of says one thing and then it sort of says another. For example, there's text that says it actually holds this city, and then it's referring to its failed attacks on that city or whatever. So anyway, but this is what we've got so far. So this is what we're working on. There's partial elements that are probably going to be consistent with what happened historically. But basically, they start off with, this is basically a brigade of armour, and they basically send one brigade across the river. Obviously it gets caught, and there's this sort of, they only have really about 2-to-1 odds, not even 3-to-1 odds, and so I don't really know how much was present here, but they get attacked front on, but also in the flanks. But it says front on and in the flanks, but I don't know whether that's the flanks here, or whether they came across this way, got attacked from that way and that way, because the description says it came between this town and this town, so I'm presuming they come this way. But the more I look at it, you can sort of always come across this way, down through this marsh. So really it's for you to just sort of think about the battle. It was a major battle with a lot of tanks, hundreds of tanks, 300 tanks, and anyway they send their tanks down here. They get spotted, and so there's this big tank duel, and the Iranians lose it basically, and so the next day they send another tank brigade down here, and they also lose. And then on the third day they commit another tank brigade with the paratroopers, and they come down and they also get beaten. So it's a complete disaster. Part and parcel of the problem is that they get stuck in all the wet ground here. Now it's quite difficult to really demonstrate that. I thought of putting marsh area in here, but I haven't really done that yet. But one of the things that the Iraqis did, they didn't bother really to go tank to tank, in the sense that they just dug their tanks in and fired from static positions at the advancing Iranian tanks. And so I don't think that gives them much of an advantage, but what you'll see is that their defensive bonus is 13, indicating that they're going to be a lot harder to beat, because they're all dug in. But obviously, if I just put them dug in, they don't have ranged fire, so they can't be dug in there and fire there, So anyway, but that's sort of tactically what was happening. So essentially, that's pretty much that. So we'll just have a quick look at the belligerent list, so to speak. So again, we've got the Iranians here with their, I don't know what's their second mechanized brigade. Anyway, so we've got them. This is their mechanized brigade down here. And this could be quite a significant element, really. I don't know, but and then you've got their armoured brigades. Now you've got the engineer battalion. That's important. That's critical, because in the first instance, if you look there, there's the engineering brigade. They've actually got to build a bridge, and because they're already sat there, you should be able to build a bridge straight away across there. And then send your tanks across. I mean, if you don't build the bridge, you're not getting across here. There's no other way across this river. I've removed the bridge there because I presumed it had been bombed out, but there should be a bridge there on Google Maps at the moment. So essentially, you've got the mechanized units down near Ahvaz. You've got the engineers for the bridge. You've got the 1st Brigade of Armour, and then here you've got the 2nd Brigade that comes in on turn 6. And then on turn 12 you get your 3rd Brigade, along with all the 55th Paratrooper Brigade Regiment paratroopers. So you've got all these paratroopers. They're quite small units. I've got them as sort of battalions. splitting them up, just so you've got a spread, so you can maybe do more strategic things, outflanking and present a front line. They're paratroopers, but they don't paratroop in; they just walk in. So that's pretty much all that the Iranians get. The Iraqis obviously start off with a whole bunch of, sort of general stuff around there. I've given them quite a bit of armour because it is a tank-to-tank duel, and you can see some mechanised units, some artillery, etc. And then basically they don't get much, but on turn 9 they get some air power. Now there were some helicopters in this, but they didn't really do much. The Iranian helicopters did nothing, and the Iraqi helicopters had minimal effect, so I've not put them in. The Iraqis had a little bit of air power, so I've given them on turn 9 this Mirage with 4 sorties, so you get four turns of attack with that. And then obviously on turn 11 you get a lot more units, so you get some motorised infantry and some anti-tank companies, and then you get some artillery and then some armour. I mean, once these come in, I think it will definitely be game over, but I don't think, to be quite honest, just even looking at it, I don't think they really, I might par this down a little. I just don't know what they had, or whether they were in this sort of line. They might have been more in this way, for example. I just don't know where the front line was. I mean, it could be that the front line was down there, but I just can't. I've done it like this because I can't see why they would be sneaking down this road, doing a pontoon, sneaking down here, when they could come down this road, which is sort of good going. I mean, obviously I've put that there to sort of make it look a little more normal, but why do that? Why not bring them all the way back down here, around here, and come in here and then come down there? Why go to all that? I don't know, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and to be quite honest, I think that's sort of one of the things that appeals to me about this whole sort of game environment is that to some extent there is sort of a research angle in the sense that there's no idiot's guide to Operation Nasr. There's basically one text I can see. There is a book on Amazon that I'm thinking of buying, and I didn't see before, because in my book that I have, to be quite honest, it's becoming more and more of a disappointment. It's the Iran-Iraq War, a military and strategy guide by Murray and Woods. I mean, basically, he doesn't even have an entry for this battle, and this battle was noted for having the most significant, being the largest tank engagement of the war. I mean, to some extent, one of the reasons why it's quite interesting is because basically the Iranians lost all their tanks. The bridge was blown up, so they couldn't retreat, but they managed to rebuild it and retreat with something. Now, the Iraqis obviously lost quite a few tanks. But the thing is, because they held the field, they could recover their own tanks and also recover the Iranian tanks. And I think they basically they built up, their own sort of, regiments or whatnot from the captured Iranian tanks. So, this was a massive tank duel that the Iranians lost. And I mean, just as an aside from some of the things I've been reading, it gave Saddam Hussein a sense that his defensive posture was good and proper, and it gave him a lot of confidence, which was actually incorrect, because the reason the Iranians lost was because they basically chose bad ground. It was nothing to do with their defence. It was more to do with the fact that they chose to come across this this marshland. I mean, this is sort of marshland down here, so it's all sort of pretty wet. We've got less than a minute, so I don't really know whether it's worth going to play mode. I just want to sort of put this video together, because I think this is one of the battles that cover sort of generally if they're modern, they're not particularly significant. But this is actually, the Iran-Iraq War battles are particularly interesting and sort of they're quite major, and I think they need a little more focus and attention into sort of how they work. I'm not sure I can actually build a bridge because they don't seem to be available. I'll have to modify that. No. I'll have to update that. Yeah, it's available now, so Okay, well, I've made a few adjustments. I can't even remember what the first one was, but the first one was basically something to do with these engineers. Yeah, they weren't available. I think lots of them go now. I've made quite a few changes. I realised I made some errors on the air movement that affected everything, and that was panic stations, but I've sorted it now, so we're all good to go. I also noticed something else down here, so I'm just going to play it. Now, the first thing to do, I've done this a few times now, so it's a bit boring, but build this bridge, and of course it'll go back to this screen. I mean, it should really show that, but that's, it's not important at the moment. So it's completed now, so there'll be some sort of verification there, but there isn't. So it's just built it. So I now go back to the game by pressing the button, and as you'll see, there's a little bridge there, magic. And then what I have also done, I've added another unit because it just really wasn't enough to even actually make it thinkable. I mean, there's more units down here than there are up here. Okay. I'm going to try and move him this way around the city just to see where it actually makes it. Yeah, that is actually faster. I did it last time. I went through the city. It's a longer route, but it's by road. It's quite amazing when that sort of thing happens. And then if you go there, you can only get to there. If you go around, you can get to there. Wow, look at that. And then there's this little guy. You can't get into the desert. Interesting. Now I did this battle down here, so that's sort of that, and I'm playing it sort of semi-historically, going down this way, pretending that I'm trying to get a surprise. I might reorganise some of these so they're not so really in your face, they're more sort of orientated and maybe across a line over here, and then you have to sort of move them or decide which way you want to go. But this is the sort of diversionary attack on Ahvaz. I did this before and I sort of didn't make a mistake, so to speak, but I misinterpreted the situation, but now I've done it twice, I can clarify again. Now, just to put it into immediate perspective, the important thing here is there's a river across there. So there was a river between here and there. So you might think, well, hang on, why are these tanks involved? Ordinarily it wouldn't, but because they're tanks, they're basically being allowed to use their armour. And I'm pretty sure it's full value, so it's a bit of a cheat, but at the moment that's how it works. But I'm actually going to go back to the game now, so because basically when they win, they won't be able to advance across the river. So it's sort of, that's basically how it works at the moment anyway. I won't bother with justifications, but I mean, infantry can't do that. Infantry wouldn't be able to do that. So if this mechanised infantry was sort of there, it wouldn't be able to do it. It's only because it's armour. So I can get this lot into the attack. When I just did it the first time, I just did it with one stack here, and that was at like 1 to 2. So this is going to be a pretty heavy one. So I'm also going to put this unit in there, and that will at least give me another 10% bonus, which sort of might make sense, because if it comes up to a 1 to 1, but it might be a 2 to 1, I doubt it. But if we can get 1 to 1, that's sort of how this sort of battle is. It was a tough one, I think, but they did have the element of surprise, and they did sort of rout the Iraqis out. It's just they've been regrouped far too quickly, and I don't know about bringing this one back in. The thing is, there's nothing really to defend over there, so I think I might try it. 1.5, so that would be 3. He won't be able to get into the attack. So I'm going to leave him there for the time being. So we've got all of this. I can't be bothered to think of the odds. Let's see what happens. That was a good die roll. These battles I like because it was a 1 to 1, and you should be afraid to fight a 1 to 1. need something to drink. It should be a fight to fight a 1-to-1. Because basically my interpretation of 1-to-1 is a 50-50. You know, who wins and who loses, not just the numbers. That's how I think of it. But you know, a lot of attacks, you know, they require that, and that could have represented the surprise, etc. So essentially, now what we want to do is take out Ahvaz, and to be quite honest, there's no way they can get across this river. Now that could have gone the other way, and if you think about it going the other way, I would have been disorganised, demoralised, and it would have been much harder the next time round, and they could have reinforced that hex with some of these units. So you know what happens there is almost critical to the entire strategy, because now it gives me, you know, makes me a threat over here, which is this sort of flank here. How that will pan out in the game, I don't know. But now that is done, I mean, he's still got movement. I'm not sure how I want to do this, because what I'm tempted to do is move him there into Qasr, and then move him into Qasr. That will give me 18 defence factors there. Now he will be able to attack me, but he won't be able to sort of do both. And I think I'm going to do that. I don't know what. I'm just sort of thinking, I'll at least keep the front line a little more spread. I mean, he won't be able to sort of just shoot all these down to there to attack. You know, this road will be, maybe Al-Baji would be just as good a place. But anyway, as I said, I'm not coming down this road. It just seems so obvious to come down this road and take this unit out and come around here, because I want to, you know, the whole idea was to cross the river. You know, we've got bridge building and everything, so that's that. Now, the thing that I haven't got this far in my thinking yet, because you know it's difficult really when you make the thing in the first place, is what did the Iraqis do? Because I mean, now essentially, I think I'm going to be tempted to play it historically, because they did play a defensive role, but there's so little up here that, you know, you might sort of think, well, we could probably do something here. I mean, down here, what is there? Should really lower the screen a bit. I wonder if I can do that just a tad. Okay, so 8, some artillery, 8, 8, 8, 8. I mean, that's a lot. Now, what I'm going to do, first of all, is I just think the Iraqis are going to beat the Iranians, you know, without even trying. See, I sort of want to play it, not so much historically, but I want to sort of maybe keep it in the flavour of the game as opposed to just playing for win. But I want to maintain that hex there just for the sake of giving a reason why I'm not just coming down this way. I don't think I want to attack that. This is quite a nice defensive position that I can maintain. In fact, all these defensive positions, I think are going to hold exactly as they are. But what I want to do, and what I'm looking forward to doing, is committing my artillery. Now, I'm going to have to sort this artillery out. So we're going to fire our artillery onto there. Now, if you remember that the artillery rules have changed. Okay, well obviously I'll have to do something with the trailing digits. So we ignore the top bit because it's artillery only. The first one, no damage. The second one, 0.06. And the third one, which would have probably been the least easy to get, exactly the same sort of defence factors in exactly the same position, 0.03. So now these are basically almost minimal, but this was the third one. It gets harder and harder to hit. I could have hit this fourth one, but there's no way I was going to hit the fifth one because there's no factor on the fifth one. But this is the artillery coming in and doing a sort of relative, I can just sit there each turn using artillery against this stack here. Now I maybe should have done it against this in the desert, because the thing is, if they hold there, they will recover that. If we look at their depressions, he's got depression 0.06. He will recover next turn to 0. So that's not really a good thing. But the thing is, the artillery is sort of there, actually doing things. Now, I'm sort of in two minds really as to what to do here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume this line will hold against the eastern Ahvaz front, and I'm going to bit by bit it's all mechanized, so I don't want to get too close at this stage. Now that is what I like. This is quite interesting because it's sort of it's a clear definite shape. The only thing I'd say is I'm not sure I've got too much Iraqi armour there. There was no sort of specification, but they were supposed to have a division of artillery, a division of armour, which is what that is. It's 3 regiments of 3 regiments, so that's brigade, brigade, brigade. So that's pretty much what it said on the label. But they're clearly not being outnumbered by the Iranians. I'm going to sort of hold that position. I don't want to be sort of, so close that they can just jump out, because they could get there. They could possibly do a 2-to-1 against there. That's a weak one. I'm sort of committed now, aren't I, really? I've got 4.4 movement. I think I will. He can't move, so he's stuck. That doubles that up to 26. I mean, they can come maybe down here. They're probably not going to be able to get. They can possibly get to there, possibly there. Get those 3 hexes. With the rest of this, I'm not going to commit anything just yet. Now, what I sort of wanted to do, I was thinking, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll leave the artillery behind the rivers, but the thing is, if the armour ever actually gets there, they can fire over the river. So it would be maybe nice to sort of move them back a hex, so that they can't actually be that can't actually be done. If I had engineers, I could destroy this bridge, which would be interesting, and actually, prevent them from actually crossing there. But as said right at the very beginning, I don't really know how this battle went, and I'm not sure how to model it with these sorts of with this system in that sense, because some of the key things I can't model. Anyway, it's 15 minutes. I'm not going to do any more. I'll speak to you later. Bye. Okay, so I'm going to have another little 15-minute blast, just because I want to sort of just engage. I think I'm going to reduce one of these units, so there's not as many of them, although I'm still not sure about that. I'm going to leave all this as it is. I'm going to leave these units in reserve. Whether I leave them there or not, I don't know. I'm going to leave them there so they can take them across the river if I need to. I think that's not what I wanted to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter, they're out of range. So all my mechanised infantry is there. And that's it. So now the Iranian still turn 1. I still haven't fixed that. Now what? I mean, there's just so much armour. The question comes down to what can be done. It's really difficult because there is no simple, there's no sort of way to do it. I mean, the only way to play it really would be to hold them there until turn 6. I could get a 1-to-1 against that. And that's it. So I want to maintain this bridgehead where the Iraqis can't destroy it because they don't have any engineers. That's interesting. Next turn, if I can get there, I can surround this. One thing to note about this is a tank battle. There's nothing else other than tanks here. The question is, do I do this 1-to-1? I mean, this flank is stronger. I'm going to leave that. Woohoo, it's turn 2 finally. So the question is, down here, do they feel strong? It says 8, 9, 10, 11, 18, 26, 32, 40. There were 40 in there, which is going to be 120. They're probably not going to be able to get the appropriate odds. However, it's mostly mechanised. If they put their armour around here, they could have got these 2 hexes as well. For an extra 20%. I'll have to think about that. Oh. It's looking threatening there. That extends the flank further north. Then move this artillery a little further south. Let's see what we can do against his armour. Artillery only, so ignore that first bit. So 0.4 versus no effect. Oh, 0.4 can take the edge off of an odds level. 1 to 1 down to 1 to 2. One of the things with this, I think, is that it's all fair enough to say, yes, we've got the advantage, but if this attack doesn't go well, let's see what the odds are. See there, when they had the artillery went in well, the artillery is going to be very telling. I still have yet to really determine whether the artillery is too strong, but those are two good hits because they're now 1.1. So this should leave them at 2.6 and 2.2. So they're taking some real damage there, but they roll badly. You know, I mean that they were just shy of 3 to 1. And all the Iraqis need to do is to actually lose one of these good odds. You know, if they got a 12, they might have got an attacker retreat. They got the exchange, so that didn't really help them very much, but they've done some damage on there. But so have all these units. They're all at depression 1. Which is going to leave the Iranians with an opportunity to move into there and into there and to hammer this unit. Now the question is, do we want to break out of here? So it's a lot of infantry versus armour. Now you've got to remember that they get a massive reduction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 72. They're going to be about halved. So it should be about 35 odds plus 1, 2, plus a 20%. So they should be about 40 or something. Look at that, 40, 41 versus 20, which is just in on 2 to 1. But with a poor dice roll, they got an exchange. This is interesting because I've never really it's been a while since I've actually had an intense battle that's actually, it's all been ISIS stuff. But you know, that's showing how weak infantry is against just a stack of armour. There was an exchange there, but the thing is, the exchange combined with the other damage over here, these ones have taken a significant hit. We've got these units in reserve with 2 lots of infantry, which could go either way. I'm quite enjoying this reserve element with 2 significant battles. I mean, it's not decisive, but because they're infantry, it'd be interesting. Might be able to actually, they might suffer, and this armour battle is going to be be well balanced, because I mean the Iranians should lose, but by that time turn 6 will come around and we'll have another brigade come down. The Iraqis will be again a little weakened a little further, and they might really get the edge, but they might still need that third brigade, which will then come on to finish off the Iraqis, but then the Iraqis will get all their other reinforcements, so this could actually be quite balanced. I just don't know. I did think that the attack would happen sort of more down here, but it's more over here really at the moment. And I'm going to do what I sort of thought would be the way to do it. I want to get the odds against that. Well, those are pretty good odds. And I'm a bit worried about why they're so good, because it's saying that the verse is 8, and there should have been clearly 26. I have to look into that, because that's not quite right. What it's probably doing is somehow factoring in armour only, and then it sort of basically thinks that I've got armour fighting against infantry, and one of these flags that I've got in has come up, so I'll have to look into that. But anyway, I don't mind these errors coming up. I mean, obviously I have to sort that out, figure out why, but you know, it just sort of results in a sort of interesting level of battle. But I mean, had fantastic odds and did really badly. You know, it all sort of balances out. Alright, yeah. Yeah, he just retreated to there, didn't he? Might not be the best of moves, but that's interesting, because on that occasion he was 13.6. It's still been halved for some reason. Or quartered. Well, this time I got defender eliminated, which in this game will significantly make a difference on the odds. I mean, this little tank is now free to go and destroy this engineering unit. I mean, you know, cause chaos, because the thing is, there's no supply lines in here or anything, so I'm going to sort of leave it at that, because I think that's maybe, you know, I've got to figure out why that happened. Because otherwise, if they're quartered on everything, I'm going to win. So, and it's nearly 15 minutes, so I'll leave it at that and speak later. Cheers, mate.